Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we sift through monumental stacks of source material research, notes, foundational texts, all to give you the purest, most actionable knowledge possible.
And today, we are definitely strapping on our aprons.
We are stepping into the kitchen for a really comprehensive look at one of modern American cuisine's most critical philosophies, the unwavering commitment to farm-to-fork cooking.
That's right. Our source material today, it draws heavily from the principles laid out by Emeril Lagasse. But this deep dive, it goes so much further than just one celebrity chef or a single cookbook.
Right.
It's a genuine manifesto on culinary integrity. It's all built around locality, seasonality, and, well, the absolute maximization of natural flavor.
So we're not just learning recipes.
No, not at all. We are mapping the entire food supply chain.
And that's really our mission today, isn't it? To understand the logistics and the whole ethos that underpins this movement.
Exactly. And the core message is simple, but it's kind of revolutionary in its dedication. Fresh quality ingredients don't just make for good food, they are essential for an exceptional quality of life.
That's a powerful statement. And we're going to trace this philosophy from its roots in a family garden all the way to creating a professional supply system.
And we will not be shying away from the technical details. I mean, get ready to discuss the science of preservation, the logistics of sourcing.
And some incredibly specific scratch-made techniques.
Oh, yeah. Everything from the chemistry of making homemade mozzarella to why you absolutely need a large spoon and maybe even a pair of goggles when you're grating fresh horseradish.
Okay, I am intrigued. Let's unpack this. We're going deep on flavor, community, and technique. We're starting right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So the source material, it paints this beautiful picture of how this philosophy wasn't, dreamed up in a fancy commercial kitchen.
Not at all. It was rooted in the soil of his childhood.
Literally. We're talking about those formative years spent visiting his Uncle Oliver's farm, right? In Westport, Massachusetts.
Exactly. That's the origin story for this deep respect for ingredients. Uncle Oliver's place was a classic, diversified New England farm.
So what does that mean, diversified?
It means he had everything. Hogs, chickens, goats, sheep. And alongside all that, he grew vast amounts of hay, fruits, and vegetables.
And this wasn't just a casual visit for a kid.
No, this was hands-on learning. The experience was completely immersive.
So walk us through some of the specific lessons he would have picked up just by, being on that land.
Well, the first lesson was seasonality, and it was taught by just being close to the earth. He describes the pure joy of walking the strawberry rows in the spring, just picking to his heart's content.
You learn right away that a strawberry at its peak is a completely different thing.
A different universe. And then came the rhythm of the year. He'd help harvest the summer crops, beans, peppers, zucchini, cucumbers, and then you'd wait for the fall.
And fall brought the sturdier stuff.
Right. Potatoes, pumpkins, and a whole array of what are called cole crops.
Wait, cole crops? That's a term you don't hear a lot outside of agriculture. For the listener, what does that actually cover?
Cole crops is the umbrella term for vegetables in the brassica family.
So think cabbage, broccoli.
Exactly. Cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, collard greens, all those hardy fall and winter staples. By seeing this cycle, he learned that food has a timeline.
And to get the absolute best version of a vegetable, you have to honor that timeline.
You have to. That influence was so profound, it didn't just stay on the farm. When he went home to Fall River, his father converted over an acre of their backyard into this massive vegetable garden they worked on together.
This is where the business lessons began.
It is. This is where the lessons in supply and demand started. The family was committed to zero waste.
So whatever they couldn't eat or share,
they sold it. And this gave him his first real glimpse into the economics of produce.
The famous Little Red Wagon business model.
Exactly that. He'd cart the surplus produce around the neighborhood. The source specifically mentions selling a lot of it to places like Jean's Market, which was just a couple of blocks away.
And that teaches you two things at once, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. First, the sheer effort it takes to grow food from a seed to the point of sale. And second, the immediate, gratifying reward of connecting that effort directly to a customer. He saw people's delight in the freshness he helped create.
And as he got older, the chores on the farm got more serious than just picking vegetables.
Right. He was milking cows and goats, collecting eggs.
How did those specific tasks kind of cement the philosophy that would later define his cooking?
It created this indelible functional link. I mean, when you milk a goat and then immediately go make cheese with it, you understand that product's integrity in a way someone who just buys milk at the store never ever will.
You see the whole chain.
The whole chain. From animal husbandry to the farmer's labor to the final product on the plate. That experience set his professional standard. When you source ingredients as a chef, you have to prioritize the relationship with the grower above everything else.
And that standard got a real test when he arrived at Commander's Palace in New Orleans back in 1983.
It did. New Orleans cuisine, even then, was deeply regional, but it was often constrained by traditional supply lines.
Now, how do you fix that?
Well, if you want the freshest product, you can't rely on national distributors. Their priority is shelf life, ease of transportation, not peak flavor.
So the commitment to local sourcing had to become an active project.
Exactly. He, along with some other visionary chefs, they saw this gap. And instead of just accepting it, they partnered with one particular farmer in Mississippi to start a farm co-op.
That feels way ahead of its time for the early 1980s restaurant scene. What did that co-op actually do?
It was a direct bypass of the middleman. They weren't just placing orders, they were investing in the farmer. They helped plan the crop calendar based on what the restaurants needed, and they shared the risk.
Which gives you a direct pipeline of hyper-local peak season produce.
And herbs, and critically proteins. This partnership was the foundation for one of their most famous traditions, Hog Wednesdays.
Okay, let's pause on Hog Wednesdays. That is more than just a catchy name, right? It represents total culinary utilization.
We call it nose-to-tail cooking today, but this was the ultimate expression of respect for the source. On a specific Wednesday, the farmer would deliver freshly slaughtered pigs directly to the kitchen.
So not just pre-cut pork butts and tenderloin.
No, the whole animal. This allowed the culinary team to use every single part in a way that's just impossible with standard restaurant ordering.
So what does a kitchen actually do with a whole pig that they can't do otherwise?
It opens up this world of deep specialization. They could make fresh charcuterie that needed immediate processing, things like custom sausages, terrines, bone-in-using organs, and glands that have an extremely short shelf life.
And the rest.
They rendered the fat for lard to use in pastry and for frying. They used the bones and the trotters for these incredibly rich stocks and demi-glaces.
It wasn't about being cheap.
Not at all. It was about maximizing flavor and minimizing waste. It instilled a discipline that is still a point of pride at Emeril's restaurant in New Orleans today.
And that commitment just sort of flowed into every other part of the kitchen.
Absolutely. That mentality fostered this pervasive culture of scratch cooking. The source lists their incredible dedication to making everything they possibly could in-house.
Like what?
Fresh goat cheese, artisanal ice cream, their own Worcestershire sauce, house-cured bacon. This wasn't a marketing gimmick. It was a commitment to controlling the quality and flavor integrity at every single step.
Because if you rely on someone else, you give up control.
You surrender control. If you make it yourself, you own the quality, start to finish.
And that focus, even decades later, is still the benchmark.
It is. The principle that started in that backyard garden, that commitment to fresh, quality ingredients, it ensures not just superior food, but a better quality of life for everyone involved. Diners, chefs, and the farmers, too.
Okay, so if the first section established the philosophical roots, this next section really expands the mission. The philosophy moves beyond the professional kitchen.
Right. It becomes this genuine socioeconomic imperative, and it's captured in that simple but really powerful slogan, buy fresh, buy local.
This is where we get into the ethics and the community responsibility.
It is. When you shop locally, you're doing so much more than just getting a fresh zucchini. You are directly investing in your local economy, and often you're actively reducing your environmental impact.
How significant is that environmental impact reduction when you really focus on local sourcing?
It's considerable. It's largely due to what we call food miles.
The distance food travels.
Exactly. When your produce doesn't have to be shipped thousands of miles on a plane or in a refrigerated truck, you immediately slash the carbon footprint from transport and storage. And on top of that, when you seek out farmers who use organic practices,
The ones taking the harder, more labor-intensive route to avoid pesticides.
you're supporting better health for your family and a more sustainable local ecosystem. It's a win-win.
Now, the common pushback on buy local is usually accessibility. People assume you have to live right next to a big farm.
And that assumption is just getting more and more outdated. The source notes the incredible growth here. There are now well over 4,500 registered farmers markets across the country, with new ones popping up all the time.
Which makes local support genuinely achievable for a huge part of the population.
It really does.
So beyond the numbers, let's talk about the practical the culinary advantage of going to a market.
The product quality is just fundamentally superior. Industrial produce is often picked days or even weeks early, so it can survive the long-haul trip.
But local products,
They are picked at peak ripeness. That timing ensures maximum flavor, but it also means maximum nutrient content and vitality.
and I appreciate the small details the source points out. No excess packaging to deal with, and none of those annoying little stickers on your apples.
They're minor irritants, sure, but they point to a larger truth about reducing waste. And crucially, the farmer's market is where you discover culinary innovation.
Oh, so.
Small farmers can afford to grow unique heirloom varieties that massive grocery chains just can't risk stocking. You'll find oddly shaped gourds, striped tomatoes like the green zebra, or exotic varieties of beans.
These are the gems that add real distinction to a meal.
They really are.
But this mission, it goes beyond just produce growers. We have to talk about the challenges facing other primary producers. The source makes a really powerful point about Gulf Coast shrimpers.
This is a devastating multi-generational challenge, and it links directly back to that buy local idea.
What's the core problem?
The source highlights that shrimpers along the Gulf Coast are struggling immensely because the market is saturated with low-priced, often questionably sourced, imported seafood, a lot of it from Asian countries.
And the economics are just brutal.
They are. The prices these shrimpers get at the dock sometimes don't even cover the cost of fuel and labor to go out and catch the shrimp.
And these are family operations.
Yes, often operating on razor-thin margins. They're being forced out of a livelihood that sustained their families for a century, all because of massive international imports.
So that reality forces us as consumers to make a conscious choice.
It does. If you value the integrity, the freshness, and the local economic support of Gulf Coast seafood, you have to be willing to seek it out and pay a price that reflects the genuine cost of that labor.
Supporting local fishermen, just like supporting local farmers, it's an act of conservation and community investment.
Absolutely. Because if those local industries disappear, our options become severely limited to global supply chains where the quality and regulations can be pretty opaque.
This all raises a logical question for city dwellers. If we can't all live on the coast or next to a farm, how do we maintain this connection? The source talks about the power of urban ingenuity.
Urban farms are popping up in the most unexpected places. You just have to look at the post-Katrina 9th Ward of New Orleans.
An area that was struggling immensely with blight and lack of resources.
And the ingenuity there involved repurposing abandoned properties and using non-traditional containers for gardening.
The example of using abandoned car tires for vertical potato gardening is really striking.
It's a perfect zero-waste, high-density farming solution. You stack the tires, fill them with soil, and the potatoes can grow vertically in layers. It maximizes the use of these small, previously blighted spaces.
And it proves that being disconnected from your food source is a choice, not a necessity.
Exactly. These urban projects do so much more than just provide food. They revitalize neglected parts of a city and enrich the local community.
And that leads directly to educational outreach. The source spotlights the work done to bring the Edible Schoolyard project to a New Orleans school. It was originally founded by Alice Waters in California.
This is where the magic of respecting the source really begins, with the youngest generation.
So how does that work?
Well, children who are involved in planting, growing, and harvesting their own food get this multifaceted education. Yes, they're eating better, more healthful meals.
But it's more than just nutrition.
It is. They're gaining a genuine respect for Mother Earth and for the immense amount of hard work that goes into producing food. It fosters self-esteem through self-reliance. They see a tangible result for their efforts.
And the benefits just ripple out.
They do. They ripple out to the whole community. Neighbors come together to help maintain the garden. It fosters a sense of shared purpose, strengthens social ties. It's a complete win-win, all rooted in that small plot of garden space.
So bringing this back to a practical application for you, the listener. Start small.
You don't need an acre of land. The philosophy just encourages you to plant a small backyard garden, or if you're in an apartment, even just an herb garden in some pots on a windowsill.
And here's the ultimate selling point for parents of, shall we say, fussy eaters. The aha moment for kids.
Research and experience show this consistently. Finicky children are exponentially more likely to try a new vegetable if they participated in its entire life cycle.
From planting the seed to harvesting it.
Planting, tending, harvesting, and then preparing it. That moment of ownership overcomes that natural suspicion kids often have towards unfamiliar foods.
So it transforms the dinner table from a battleground into a classroom.
That sense of wonder, that connection to where your food comes from is something you just can't buy at a supermarket.
Okay, we've established the philosophy and the sourcing. Now let's get into the deep technical mastery you need to really maximize the flavor of these premium ingredients, starting with herbs.
Right. If your local co-op or your windowsill garden gives you an abundance of herbs, the immediate challenge is how to preserve them without losing that vitality.
And the source provides a superb, technically elegant solution: herb oils.
Herb oils are brilliant. They capture the full flavor and that intense, vibrant green color, which lets you use summer herbs all year round.
And they're versatile.
Incredibly. Great for drizzling over pasta, salads, grilled items, or even just for adding a dramatic pop of color to a plate.
So let's talk about the technical process, because if you just blend herbs with oil, it turns brown pretty quickly. How do they lock in that dazzling green?
This is where the science comes in. The process involves a necessary step called blanching and ice bathing.
So you plunge the herbs into boiling water.
For about 15 seconds, basil, parsley, dill, whatever you're using, then immediately you transfer them to a bowl of ice water.
What's the chemistry behind that quick plunge? What's it doing?
It's all about enzyme denaturation. The heat temporarily deactivates an enzyme called chlorophyllase.
And if that enzyme stays active?
It will naturally degrade the chlorophyll, which leads to the oxidation that turns the herbs brown or kind of an olive color over time. The ice bath just immediately halts the cooking process and sets that broke green color permanently.
That's a perfect example of technical mastery applied for both flavor and aesthetics. And after the bath, you have to squeeze out every last drop of moisture.
Water is the enemy of the oil. It can lead to spoilage, so you have to press out all the liquid. Then the dried herbs are blended intensely with the neutral oil.
Like grapeseed or canola, so the herb flavor is the star.
Exactly. And some salt. The oil acts as the preservative.
And of course, the source advises on how to kick it up.
Right. You can add crushed red pepper and maybe a smashed half clove of garlic to the blender, and you instantly have this amazing rustic dipping oil for bread.
A simple addition that totally transforms it.
It really does. And when talking about specific herbs, the source has a great insight into basil, noting that basil is botanically a member of the mint family.
Which makes it surprisingly versatile in both sweet and savory dishes.
Right. I found the discussion of opal basil macerated peaches really intriguing because it uses the herb in a sweet application mainly for the visual appeal.
The color.
The color. Opal basil has this deep purple hue, and while its flavor is similar to sweet basil, that color adds a real visual drama when you combine it with pale peaches.
And the process is simple.
Pretty simple. You quarter some firm ripe peaches, combine them with a lot of loosely packed opal basil, and then cover them with a hot syrup made of lime zest, sugar, and water before chilling it all down. That juxtaposition of sweet fruit and unexpected herbaceousness is just phenomenal.
We also see that combination of delicate herbs and savory dishes, like the herb-crusted halibut. The crust has dill, parsley, chervil, lemon zest, and cracked black pepper.
I want to pause on chervil. For those who aren't familiar, it's a very delicate herb, sometimes called gourmet parsley. It has this subtle hint of anise or licorice, much softer than tarragon.
So you need a light touch.
You do, so its subtle flavor isn't just overwhelmed by the lemon zest or the dill. The crust is pressed onto fillets that have been brushed with Dijon mustard, which acts as the perfect binder.
Okay, let's shift gears from herbs to a core part of scratch cooking. Dairy. The source encourages making soft cheeses at home: ricotta, fromage blanc, and the gold standard, homemade mozzarella.
This is a deep commitment, and it comes with one non-negotiable requirement:
Which is?
sourcing fresh, non-ultra-pasteurized milk.
Okay, I want to push on this point. For many listeners, ultra-pasteurized milk is the standard at major grocery stores. Is this really practical for everyone, or does this limit who can even try this?
And that is the essential challenge of scratch cooking. It really underscores the whole philosophy. If you want the best result, you must start with the best source. And the requirement is necessary because of the fundamental change ultrapasteurization causes to the milk's chemistry.
Can you explain that chemistry? Why is ultrapasteurization the enemy of cheese making?
Sure, regular pasteurization heats milk to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Ultrapasteurization, or UP, heats it to over 280 degrees for just a few seconds to dramatically extend the shelf life.
And that extreme heat is the problem.
It irrevocably alters the structure of the casein proteins, the main proteins you need for the cheese curd to form.
So when you add the rennet,
When you add rennet, the enzyme used to coagulate milk to UP milk, the proteins are just too damaged to form a strong, clean curd structure. You end up with a weak, crumbly mess instead of that smooth, shiny texture you're looking for.
so the advice is clear. Find milk from a smaller dairy or a local creamery that uses standard pasteurization. It ensures the integrity of the whole process.
Precisely. For homemade mozzarella, the process details using rennet tablets or liquid and citric acid to lower the pH, which encourages the curd to form when you heat the milk to exactly 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
And once the curds are cut, they're heated again, drained, and salted.
And this leads to the texture magic, the stretching.
The stretching.
Yes, the stretching and what cheesemakers call cheddaring. This is the critical step where you align the proteins by pulling the warm curds until they're smooth, elastic, and shiny. This alignment is what gives mozzarella its signature chew and melt quality.
And after it's stretched, the final crucial step is a 10-minute submersion in ice water. Why the ice water?
That abrupt drop in temperature sets the protein structure. It allows the cheese to hold its shape perfectly, and it protects that internal silky texture. The whole process, while it demands precision, gives you about 12 ounces of unbelievably fresh mozzarella.
Moving on to sweets, the source highlights treats using fresh milk, like honey vanilla goat's milk ice. Goat's milk is definitely gaining in popularity.
And for good reason. It has this distinctly tangy, slightly grassy taste compared to cow's milk, which adds a lot of complexity to a frozen dessert.
And the process?
You heat it gently with split vanilla beans and honey to infuse it. Then you slowly whisk that hot mixture into beaten eggs. That's a tempering step. Before you chill the base and freeze it in an ice cream maker.
Finally, let's tackle the danger zone. Buttermilk candy. That rich, caramelized, milky confection. This one needs serious precision.
It absolutely does. This recipe is a test of temperature control. To get the proper hard candy texture, you have to cook the mixture to exactly 240 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which is known as the softball stage. For the listener, what does that mean practically?
It means if you drop a small spoonful of the boiling sugar mixture into a cup of cold water, the syrup should immediately form a soft, pliable ball that you can flatten easily between your fingers.
And if it doesn't reach that temperature?
Well, as the source notes, you won't get candy. You'll end up with a rich, caramelized buttermilk sauce, which is delicious, but it's not the intended confection. The process requires a large pot because it bubbles up intensely, and it takes over an hour to get that perfect, dark brown caramelized color. It's a true exercise in patience.
We are back in the vegetable garden, focusing now on diversity and technique. The philosophy dictates that if you're sourcing locally, you have to use the full spectrum of seasonal produce, starting with dark leafy greens.
Nature's vitamin and mineral powerhouses. Dark leafy greens are fundamental, and the best way to use many of the tougher varieties like collards, mustard greens, or kale is through braising.
Why braising?
Braising involves cooking the greens slowly in a liquid, often stock or water, until they become incredibly tender. The source suggests a recipe for braised blended greens, combining several varieties together.
Which gives you a more complex result.
Exactly. A more complex assortment of textures and flavors.
Right.
The bitterness of mustard greens might be balanced by the subtle sweetness of collards, all enhanced by that rich braising liquid.
I love that the philosophy doesn't shy away from intense flavors, like those in bitter greens. The source highlights dandelion greens.
Dandelion greens are definitely assertive. They're sharp in flavor and quite hearty in texture. The key to making them palatable is balancing that bitterness with contrasting flavors.
And the recommended pairing is ingenious.
It is. A sweet date dressing, the powerful creamy funk of blue cheese, like a Rogue River or a good gorgonzola, and toasted walnuts for crunch. The combination of sweet, bitter, and fatty is designed to perfectly cancel out that sharpness.
We also see really innovative uses for large greens like Swiss chard and the Swiss chard and pearled barley bulls.
This is a beautiful presentation and a great use of the chard leaf. You blanch the large leaves quickly to make them pliable, and they essentially become natural wrappers.
Yeah, and you use them to enclose a savory barley risotto.
Which provides a wonderful, nutty, chewy texture. That filling itself is a scratch-made foundation. Pancetta, diced shallot, wine, and cheese. Once the boules, these little packages, are rolled and baked, the chard creates this smooth, edible coating.
It's very smart cooking. Let's move on to the more challenging underground ingredients. Roots, shoots, tubers, and bulbs.
The often underrated supporting cast of the seasonal garden, we can start with turnips and rutabagas.
Which are often lumped together, but the source makes an important distinction based on their maturity.
Absolutely. Young turnips are sweet and tender, and the source uses that delicacy in a simple, creamy turnip soup. Rutabaga, however, is a different beast.
How so?
It starts with a slightly bitter turnip-like flavor, but it requires much longer cooking. Once it's fully cooked, that bitterness transforms into this pronounced sweetness, which makes it perfect for mashing. The recipe for mashed rutabaga says to leave some lumps for texture.
Leeks are another great bulb that can be tough. What's the best technique to maximize their sweetness?
Again, braising is key. When you braise leeks, they become tender and much sweeter while still retaining that essential mellow oniony flavor.
And that makes them the ideal foil for something sharp.
Like a tangy mustard vinaigrette. The slow cooking method helps break down the complex sugars.
But then we get to the aggressive root, horseradish. The source gives a very vivid warning about preparing fresh horseradish cream sauce.
Host speaker, this sounds like a true kitchen hazard. They say grating fresh horseradish is like standing over a bowl of wasabi. It is. You genuinely need excellent ventilation or you will be driven to tears. The volatile oils in horseradish, particularly isothiocyanates, release this intense pungent vapor when you grate it. You have to respect that power.
But the heat mellows it.
Exactly. That aggressive kick is tamed when you simmer the grated horseradish gently with heavy cream, shallot, and garlic. It thickens the sauce and integrates the spice into the fat, creating this magnificent, complex condiment.
Perfect for a rib roast.
Or even on deli sandwiches, the contrast between the initial intensity and the final creamy elegance is a really rewarding process.
Let's turn our attention to the nightshades, the family that includes tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes. This section really emphasizes the joy of variety awareness when it comes to tomatoes.
We've moved so far beyond the days when chefs were snuck with standard, tasteless commercial varieties. The source celebrates the availability of heirlooms like the strikingly striped green zebra, the rich, smoky Cherokee purple, and the unusual elongated banana legs.
And why are heirloom tomatoes so revered in this philosophy?
Because they prioritize flavor and texture over shelf stability. They're delicate, and they're meant to be eaten at their absolute peak. For a preparation like tomato tartare, where the tomato is just finely diced and barely manipulated, you need the highest integrity, the juiciness, acidity, and structure that only an heirloom can provide.
And the tomatillo, a relative of the tomato, but visually and texturally very different.
Tomatillos are described as a small green fruit encased in a papery husk. They have this wonderfully distinct, lemony, sweet-sour flavor profile.
They're foundational to authentic salsas.
They are. You have to remove the husk and wash off the sticky film underneath. They're traditionally used raw or roasted until they're soft and sweet, which is what they do in a roasted tomatillo salsa.
And finally, we arrive at that classic foundational agricultural partnership. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash.
This partnership, where the corn provides a structure for the beans to climb and the squash vines provide shade to suppress weeds, is a masterpiece of sustainable agriculture. And the source showcases a technique that maximizes the corn harvest. Corn oysters.
These are corn fritters, traditional summer fare, named because they resemble fried oysters. But the preparation technique is what really shows that scratch cooking dedication.
The technique is crucial for maximizing sweetness and starch. You don't just cut the kernels off the cob.
What's the process?
First, you slice halfway through the kernels. Then you take the back of your knife or a spoon and you scrape the cob to extract the corn milk.
Which is that concentrated starchy liquid left behind.
Exactly. Then you cut off the remaining kernels. This scraping action ensures you get the full depth of flavor and texture for the fritters.
That one detail elevates the whole dish. Then there are fava beans, praised for their nutty, creamy flavor, but they require a substantial amount of effort.
The effort is why they're so rewarding. Fava beans require 2 layers of work.
2 layers.
First, you have to shell the tough outer pod. Second, you have to peel the inner protective skin from each individual bean. That second peel ensures the final bean is perfectly tender.
And once they're peeled,
their subtle, nutty flavor pairs beautifully with tender herbs like tarragon and lemon zest, as they do in a lemon-scented orecchiette pasta.
And for squash, the approach focuses on maximizing texture and flavor through heat. For roasted butternut squash soup, you roast large chunks before you puree them.
Roasting is essential. It lets the surface of the squash caramelize, that's the Maillard reaction, and it creates these tasty, slightly darkened edges. This deepens the natural sweetness and adds layers of complexity that you just can't get from boiling or steaming.
And the final piece of seasonal magic, roasted spaghetti squash. It's admired for its magical shredding.
It's a marvel of nature. Roasting the squash until it's tender allows its flesh to literally shred into perfect noodles with just a fork. It's a wonderful carb-conscious base that requires minimal dressing. A simple toss with butter and fresh herbs like chives, parsley, and thyme is all it needs.
We're shifting now to proteins, where this philosophy of integrity and quality sourcing becomes even more apparent. When discussing premium seafood, the source singles out a specific procurement method: diver scallops.
This is a perfect example of why sourcing integrity matters. Diver scallops are different from regular scallops because of how they're harvested.
They're collected by hand.
Exactly, by divers, not dredged up with heavy nets, and this method ensures several crucial quality points.
Which are?
First, sustainability. The diver only takes the largest, fully mature scallops, leaving the smaller ones behind to grow. That minimizes environmental impact. Second, quality. They are brought to market immediately, guaranteeing superior freshness.
And they're handled better.
Right. They aren't handled roughly or exposed to excessive grit, so they're cleaner, they hold their shape better, and they have a far superior texture and sweetness than standard scallops.
And that premium ingredient demands a creative, high-impact pairing. The source highlights seared diver scallops paired with an unexpected medley of oranges, olives, and capers.
That combination is a lesson in flavor contrast. You have the sweetness from the scallop, the salt and briny sharpness from the olives and capers, and the bright acidity from the oranges.
And it's all unified by a clean, light fennel puree.
Which provides this earthy, subtle anise flavor without overwhelming the delicate seafood.
Another brilliant preservation technique for wild salmon is gravlax.
Gravlax is essentially a Scandinavian cured salmon. It's a non-cooked preservation method. You coat a side of high-quality wild salmon for 36 hours in a dense cure mix of kosher salt, sugar, black pepper, and plenty of fresh dill.
And the salt and sugar draw the moisture out.
Right. It preserves the texture and flavor beautifully. Once it's cured, you slice it thin and traditionally serve it with mini potato pancakes and chive sour cream.
Moving to the Gulf Coast, the regional specialties really anchor this philosophy in a specific place and culture. The simple oyster stew is highlighted.
It's a creamy, brothy delicacy from Louisiana. And though it's called a stew, it's really a delicate, creamy soup. The preparation emphasizes quality sourcing of the dairy using the best milk and butter.
And there's a scratch cooking secret.
You have to stir in any oyster liquor that comes with the shucked oysters. That briny liquid maximizes the depth of flavor, the very essence of the oyster.
Then there is sautéed redfish, a true Louisiana classic. And the source includes a necessary note about its sourcing.
It's a conservation success story. Redfish populations were once severely depleted, but thanks to strict fishing regulations and careful management, they've made a strong recovery and are plentiful again in Gulf waters.
And the classic preparation.
It pairs the flaky fish with an intense, rich pecan-shallot compound butter and generous amounts of fresh lump crab meat. It's a showcase of the local bounty.
And for a true labor of love, the New Orleans-style stuffed artichokes.
This is a large, intensely flavorful dish beloved by the Italian-American community in New Orleans. The preparation requires dedicated effort. You stuff the artichokes with intensely seasoned breadcrumbs.
We're talking Parmesan, pecorino, fresh herbs, garlic.
And crucially, anchovies.
Anchovies for seasoning, not for a fishy flavor.
Precisely. They dissolve completely during cooking, lending this intense, savory umami depth without tasting overtly fishy. Then the artichokes are braised, cooked slowly in liquid until they're completely fork tender.
Which takes a while.
About an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. It's a dish you definitely commit to.
Shifting to poultry and game, let's discuss quail. They are notoriously difficult to cook without drying them out.
The key to quail is high heat for a short time to get crispy skin, but moisture is the challenge. The source suggests bacon-wrapped quail.
And the bacon serves two purposes.
It does. It adds a salty, smoky flavor, and as the fat renders, it bastes the lean bird, adding essential moisture that prevents it from becoming tough.
Then there is the star of the holiday table, the heritage turkey. What distinguishes these old breeds?
Heritage breeds, unlike the commercially raised turkeys, are allowed to run and fly. This results in birds that are significantly leaner and have far richer, darker meat and a much more robust, intense flavor.
But the challenge, because they're so lean, is moisture.
It is. Maintaining moisture during the long cooking time is key. The source details two ingenious solutions to combat that dryness. First, an injection.
That injection.
Yes, a quick brine, a flavorful solution of chicken broth, dry white wine, olive oil, lemon juice, soy sauce, and cayenne. Injecting this directly into the muscle tissue ensures deep hydration and flavor penetration that a standard brine just can't achieve in that short time.
And the second solution involves an herb butter application.
This is the self-basting technique. You make a mix of herb butter, parsley, thyme, sage, rosemary, garlic, and rub it under the skin.
So as the turkey roasts.
The heat renders the butter, which melts slowly, keeping the meat moist from the inside out and crisping the skin perfectly. You're constantly basting the bird without ever having to open the oven door repeatedly.
Finally, pork and beef. The honey brine pork chops start with a 6-hour brining process. Why is honey in the brine?
Well, the salt is crucial for retaining moisture through osmosis, but the honey adds complexity. Honey is a humectant.
Meaning it helps the meat retain even more moisture.
Even more than a simple salt brine, leading to a juicier chop. The solution includes water, kosher salt, honey, thyme, pepper, and cloves. After brining, they're seared and roasted to exactly 145 degrees Fahrenheit.
And often served with a bright condiment like nectarine chutney.
Which is a beautifully versatile recipe. The source notes you can substitute peaches, apricots, or plums for the nectarine.
So you can adapt it to whatever stone fruit is in season.
Exactly. It's a great example of applying that seasonal philosophy year-round.
And the outstanding rib roast is highlighted not just for the main event, but for maximizing the incredible leftovers.
The primary preparation involves creating an intensely savory paste of olive oil, garlic, rosemary, and the key umami element, anchovies. This paste is rubbed all over the roast before cooking.
And it's served with a bright garnish called gremolata.
Wait, can you quickly clarify gremolata for our listeners?
Of course. Gremolata is a classic, vibrant Italian condiment. Traditionally, it's just 3 things: fresh parsley, lemon zest, and garlic, all finely minced. It's used to cut through the richness of a large meat roast, adding freshness and acidity.
And the true payoff is the next day's sandwich.
The source's description is masterful. Slicing that cold roast thinly, layering it with fresh lettuce and heirloom tomatoes, cracked black pepper, and a generous smear of the cooled horseradish cream sauce we talked about earlier.
Using that silky condiment almost like mayonnaise. That is maximizing flavor utilization from a single roast.
The last major pillar of this farm-to-fork philosophy is extending the bounty through preservation. True home economics.
And if you follow the first 5 sections and you maximize your local sourcing, you will inevitably end up with more seasonal produce than you can use immediately.
This is where skill set meets sustainability.
It is. The main objective of preservation is straightforward: preventing the unwanted growth of yeast, mold, or bacteria so you can enjoy seasonal foods all year. But it requires meticulous technical rigor.
The source stresses general guidelines that are critical for safety, and they're often overlooked by home cooks.
Safety is paramount, especially when you're dealing with hot processing methods. Jars have to be in perfect condition, no chips, no cracks, and for heat processing, you must always use new lids.
Why new lids?
Because the sealing compound degrades after one use, and proper washing and sterilization of all your equipment is non-negotiable to prevent botulism or other spoilage. These are the fundamental rules that turn simple cooking into essential long-term food security.
The variety in the pickling section goes way beyond just standard cucumber dill pickles. Let's start with spicy pickled okra.
The trick here is using young, small pods. They're very tender and they fit nicely into the jars. You boil them in a brine with vinegar, salt, garlic, hot peppers like Tabasco or Serrano, and mustard seeds.
And the best part?
The best part is how they're used. They're suggested not just as a snack, but as garnishes or cocktail stirs. They add a fantastic spicy, briny kick to a martini or a Bloody Mary.
And then we reach the epitome of the zero-waste philosophy. Watermelon rind, crisp, sweet pickles.
This is genius. It uses the thick white and light pink part of the rind that everyone usually throws away. This rind is cut into cubes and must first be soaked in salt water and ice overnight.
Why the overnight soak? What does that do?
The saltwater and ice bath is a crucial tenderizing step. It draws out excess water and helps ensure the rind stays crisp rather than turning mushy when you boil it later.
And after rinsing, it's cooked in a spice syrup.
A highly complex spiced syrup. It's got cinnamon sticks, bay leaves, mustard, coriander, allspice, and cloves. The final product is this sweet, complex treat that really showcases using the whole product.
For the traditionalists, the source offers kosher-style dill pickles.
Cold, crispy slices made from fresh pickling cucumbers, heavily spiced with garlic, dill, bay leaves, fennel seeds, and peppercorns, all stored in a hot brine.
Moving beyond pickling, the source delves into natural preservation through fermentation with Emeril sauerkraut.
This sounds deceptively simple. Shred, salt, press, ferment. But there's a key technical detail you have to follow.
Which is,
The key is ensuring you place sufficient weight on top of the cabbage after you've salted it. The salt draws the liquid out of the shredded cabbage, and that weight makes sure the liquid, the natural brine, completely covers the cabbage.
and that creates an anaerobic environment.
It does. It excludes oxygen, which lets the natural lactic acid bacteria thrive and prevent spoilage. It's a way of preserving the cabbage naturally.
And for those who like a serious kick, the homemade hot sauce.
This recipe is a fantastic vehicle for modification. You can control the heat and flavor by changing the chiles from red Fresno peppers for a piquant richness to jalapenos for more depth and spice.
But the safety warning here is absolutely crucial. We have to reiterate that warning.
Yes. When you are cooking and pureeing hot chiles, you must do this in a very well-ventilated area. And you are strongly cautioned to wear plastic gloves when handling the chiles, or wash your hands thoroughly afterward. The concentrated volatile oils can cause serious discomfort.
And the final sauce.
The cooked chiles are pureed with water and vinegar for a sauce that will last up to 6 months in the refrigerator.
Finally, let's finish with some simple, high-impact fruit preparations. For jams, peach freezer jam is highlighted as a foolproof, quick method that bypasses the complex work of traditional canning.
It's excellent for beginners. It relies on a standardized ratio of fruit, sugar, pectin, and lemon juice. Because you're using commercial pectin, the jam sets perfectly at room temperature within 24 hours.
So you avoid the hot stove work.
And the need for sterilizing jars. You just rely on the refrigerator or freezer for long-term storage, and it perfectly captures that peak summer flavor.
And raspberry syrup is another way to preserve short-lived berries.
That syrup is wonderfully versatile. It's excellent drizzled over ice cream, mixed with club soda for a homemade soda, or combined with Prosecco for a bright seasonal raspberry Bellini.
And to extend the short fig season, the source details figs in syrup.
Firm ripe figs are slow cooked in a vanilla lemon syrup and then canned for up to 6 months. This transforms those beautiful, delicate figs into a glistening treat you can enjoy over hot buttered biscuits long into the colder months.
The absolute peak of complex desserts, though, has to be the black mission figs stuffed with blue cheese and lavender honey.
This is a combination of sweet, salty, and floral. It's culinary art.
How is it made?
It starts by making an infused honey. You warm regular honey with dried lavender flowers and let it steep for at least 10 minutes to extract the floral essential oils. That strained lavender honey is then mixed with a creamy, pungent blue cheese-like Valdean or Gorgonzola dolce and rich mascarpone.
And that mixture is piped into the cross-cut figs and drizzled with the remaining lavender honey.
It's a flavor bomb that hits every single note. The sweetness of the fig and honey, the earthy funk of the blue cheese, and that elegant floral note from the lavender. It's a perfect illustration of how simple, high-quality ingredients can create intense complexity.
And finally, the apricot clafouti.
A clafouti is a classic French country dessert, traditionally made with cherries. This version uses the tart, sweet flavor of in-season apricots. It has this marvelous texture, somewhere between a custardy cake and a tender pancake, and it features almond flour for a nutty sweetness that complements the apricot perfectly.
This deep dive took us on a culinary journey that was far more than just a list of techniques. We started with the foundational philosophy, the absolute necessity of connecting with the soil through those childhood experiences on Uncle Oliver's farm.
And we track that all the way through to the professional commitment that led to innovations like the Farm Co-op and Hog Wednesdays.
We meticulously covered the socio-economic mission of supporting local primary producers, particularly the struggling Gulf Coast shrimpers. And we looked at how urban ingenuity, like vertical potato gardening, can address food sourcing gaps.
We then broke down these masterful scratch techniques, from the science of making silky homemade mozzarella with non-ultra-pasteurized milk to preserving the full vitality of herbs through chlorphyllese denaturing blanching.
And we explored how to maximize seasonal ingredients, ensuring we appreciate everything from the aggressive nature of fresh horseradish, which has to be tamed by simmering, to the necessary effort required for the delicate, nutty flavor of double-peeled fava beans.
It's a complete guide to culinary integrity, and it demands respect for every single stage of the food chain.
It really does.
And the lessons shared by these visionary chefs are always rooted in those early lessons of connection and respect for the source. This is a path not just to fundamentally better food, but truly to an elevated quality of life built on self-reliance and community support.
We spent significant time detailing how important it is to use the whole product, whether it's nose to tail, Hog Wednesdays, using oyster liquor in a stew, or maximizing corn by scraping the cob for milk for corn oysters.
Or utilizing the rind for sweet pickles. The goal is always zero waste.
Exactly. And given the current constraints on global food supplies and the absolute commitment to whole product utilization that's showcased throughout this manifesto, that leaves us with one provocative closing thought for you to consider.
What underutilized ingredient currently sitting in your own kitchen, or perhaps growing wild in your garden, could become your next great from-scratch invention?
Maybe it's those beet greens you usually discard, or that excess tomato juice. What dedicated technique can you apply right now to transform it and extend its integrity?